Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to you.
And I'd like you introduce yourself, please, to the audience.
My name is Vyswambhdradas. I became a devotee of Krishna about 35 years ago when I met my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. He came from India in 1966 in order to preach the mission of Krishna consciousness to the world. The idea being that today there are many religions, but there's so much fighting amongst the religion that we need some universal principles on which we can all agree and which will make all of us happy rather than create more violence and more division in the world. He began his mission in New York, and now it has spread all over the world. And this festival which you attended today is being held also all over the world, in all the major cities of the world. And its purpose is the same as his was at the beginning. It is to let people know that there is a form of religion which is not sectarian and which can be pleasing to everyone and not exclude people from other religions. One can belong to any religion he wants. All religions, they are false religions, but they are also bona fide religions that should be accepted and respected. But there is also a science of God which is superior to religion. And that science of God is called Krishna Consciousness. Krishna Consciousness is the explanation of the absolute truth, which is a scientific thing. Just like if somebody goes to university, he may be of one race or one religion or another, but when he's in the classroom, the subject matter is the same for everyone. Similarly, Krishna consciousness can bring something to everyone, regardless of religion, race, gender, or whatever other differences may exist. There is one truth and only one truth. That there is one God, and we are parts and parcels of that God, and in order to be happy, we have to reconnect with Him somehow or other. The Krishna consciousness movement was started in order to tell people that in this age of quarrel, the best way to reconnect with God is by the chanting of the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mantra means something to give liberation. Man means mind, and Cha means liberation from the mind. Because we are not the mind, we are a spirit soul. So we have to somehow or other cross over into the spiritual world. And why? Because in the spiritual world there is no more birth, there's no old age, there's no disease, and there is no death. Whereas in this world we experience, we are born, we grow old, we get disease, and then we die, and then we take birth again. This is called reincarnation. And the next birth is according to what we did in this life. That is called the law of karma. So to put an end to the law of karma, we have to reconnect with God and find the spiritual life which is ours since time immemorial, but we have now forgotten about it. So therefore we identify, I am Canadian, I am American, I am Jewish, I am Christian, I am Hindu, I am this, I am that, but actually we're not all those things. All we are is spirit souls, all of us, regardless of the body we've taken, and the spirit soul can only be happy in the spiritual world. It's like this fish out of water, he can have a nice bed, he can have nice food, but if he is not in the water, you cannot make him happy. Yes. So therefore, the same way, if we cannot go back home, yes, we have to go back home, back to Godhead, in order to really become happy. And this is what Krishna consciousness is about. That's right, because word religion at this time has a bad implication, because it is sectarian by nature. What we preach is called Sanatan Dharma. That means eternal activity of the soul. So it is religious, but religion have a bad press at this time, because what happens is that when a prophet comes, like Lord Jesus came, or Lord Muhammad came, or different preachers come, their preaching is fine. But when it becomes institutionalized, then there enters the personal ambition of the priest, and they're trying to make adepts by force or by false things, and then it becomes an institution that is corrupted. That's why we avoid the designation of religion and prefer to say, okay, this is a science of God. You don't have to belong. You have to change your own life for your own good. That way, there's no feeling that, oh, I'm being cheated here. It's you who decide. You take a look at what we say and you decide if it is good for you. You put it in practice. If you see results, good for you. Then you will become convinced on your own. I don't have to convince you. I'm only trying to present to you what is already there in the books. And if it suits you, fine. If it doesn't, well, I speak to hundreds of people and it suits very few of them. Thank you very much.
Is that religions usually take this materialistic approach.
Exactly.
I'm a Christian by tradition. I was baptized as an Orthodox Georgia. I'm from Georgia.
Yes.
And so I can call myself a Christian. But in a certain way, my concern is about the priesthood and the truth, the spirituality.
Yes.
What I have find difficult, again, I'm not talking about every priest, but I'm talking about in general, what I find very difficult to find a real spirituality in priests.
Yes.
And this is what you also mentioned, that's in this Kali Yuga.
Yes, yes.
It's very tempting for religions to take this materialistic turn and
materialize the spiritual.
Materialize spiritual,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. And the way to avoid that is not through an institution, but through the example of people who are truthful. And the only thing I can say to people in general is that you have to trust your own sincerity. No one can cheat you if you are sincere. If you want to be cheated, you will be cheated, and you will not even know it.
That's true.
That is the danger. But if someone is truly sincere, because I was also Christian, I even wanted to be a priest when I was young. And then I gave it up and I became very dissatisfied with religion. I studied Buddhism, I studied Hinduism, I studied the Zen, I studied this, yoga, this. I could not find anything. But when I read the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita is the song of God, and God is speaking to me personally, then I could not refuse. I became convinced because of that, not because of some priest. The priest, yes, my spiritual master, he pointed me in the right direction, but I had to find my own way, and that's the secret, yes. the Christian religion, which I also studied when I was young very deeply because I wanted to be a priest, it doesn't explain all that much. Krishna consciousness or Sanatan Dharma begins at the point where Lord Jesus left. If you remember, at one time a lawyer came to Lord Jesus and said, "Okay, my Lord, what should I do? What is your first commandment?" And that's when he said the famous thing, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your action, and love your neighbor in the same way. Now, Krishna consciousness starts at that point. How does one love and serve God? And how do we serve and love each other? And that's why Krishna consciousness is so sublime. It takes one from the point of, like you said, I don't know what spirituality is about. What should I do in order to advance in that path? That's what Krishna consciousness teaches from the very beginning. What's the beginning? First of all, become purified. Purification begins very simple, because in this age there's this Maha Mantra. It's a chant. Anybody can chant Hare Krishna. It doesn't cost any money. You can do it anywhere. There's no rules. You can just chant Hare Krishna even if you're alone in the bathroom. Nobody needs to hear you, but you're sending out a message to God. I want to know how to serve you. Please tell me. And God is in the heart of everyone, and He gives the intelligence by which we can come to Him. And from there, He will tell you certain things. And what are those things? First of all, you should become vegetarian. That's very important, because that's the principle of non-violence. Don't kill in order to feed yourself. It is not necessary. You can eat very nice food, vegetarian food, offer it to God, and be very healthy. I'm 65 years old. I never had to see a doctor. It's the same thing. You have to know how to be vegetarian. That you learn. Vegetarian food is wonderful, but you have to know how to prepare it. Otherwise, you eat salad and you think I'm vegetarian, but then you die. So you need to prepare very nice food. Nice food. You need to be satisfied and you need to be healthy. Otherwise, your brain won't function right and your spirituality is finished. So vegetarian is just a nomiker, but then you have to learn. There's a science. There are many books now, more and more books, how to be vegetarian, to be healthy, and also to sanctify the food is also very important. Because even a plant has life. So you don't want to kill the plant unnecessarily. But God did provide certain foods for all living entities on this planet. Just you have to take it and then prepare the food very nicely and then offer it to God, and then you can take it and you will be healthy. The next thing comes down to her a little bit. No intoxication. That includes coffee, alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes, all things that alter the consciousness in an unnatural way. The spiritual way is a natural way. So if you want to have a good brain and think straight, give up all kinds of intoxicants. Tea, coffee, cigarette, alcohol, and drugs. Give those up. That will purify you. These are steps. May not be able to do it right away, but in your heart you have to understand, yes, actually that will be good. And from there it will happen by itself. The third one, and that's another important one for people at this time, no illicit sex. Not no sex, but no illicit sex. Meaning, sex is spiritual if it is done within the bounds of marriage. And with the responsibility of taking good care of the kids when they are born, and making sure that they're raised properly, then sex is fine. But this illicit sex that goes on in our homosexuality, all that, this is illicit. This is very bad, not just for the individual, but for the rest of the population. Because the law of karma is also collective. And if there's so much violence in the world, one man came earlier, asked me, why is so much violence? Why does God do it? It's not God that does it. It is the illicit activities of every one of us accumulated. It turns into famine and war, pestilence and disease. So we have a responsibility to the rest of humanity and to ourselves to obey God in these very basic manners. No illicit sex, no drugs, no meat eating, and the fourth one, no gambling. Gambling is a very bad disease. It ruins families, and it should be stopped altogether. Instead, the governments are encouraging it because it makes them money. This is another cheating. Those four principles, along with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, can purify anyone, and very quickly. How quickly? Sometimes people say, how quickly? Can I get it next month? According to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, you can get it in 1 minute if you are intense enough that you want it that bad, or you cannot have it for millions of years if you're not really serious. In the end, it's up to us because we have what is called free will. Even in Christianity, the free will is there. We can go back to home, back to Godhead, and become spiritual and happy again, or we can choose to remain in this world and enjoy the pleasures. It's not that these things are not pleasures. These are pleasures, but they're short-lived and they create a reaction which we have to suffer later on. That is the law of karma.
I do believe in creation, meaning that we as individuals create our happiness like we create everything in front of us.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that makes us as our own gods. You understand what I mean? Because we are responsible for everything that happens. Now, I don't know what the vision of God is. Is this just a spirituality to love in Krishna's religion? Or is it just a state of mind?
Yes, that's also a wonderful question. It is not a state of mind, and it is not a non-descriptive feeling or spirit. God is a person. Just like you are a person, your father is a person, I'm a person. We will always be persons, but there is one person that is different from all of us because he's the original person. From him come creation, and from him we come. We are not God, but in one sense we are. We are godly. Like a ray of the sun is also sun, but it is not the sun. Or we say a parcel of gold, that is gold, but it is not the totality of gold. So God is the absolute person. He's the totality of all of us, of all of creation, and also He is a person in the sense that He is better than us because He can love each one of us perfectly, whereas we can only love Him perfectly. And then we love others because we love him. We feel concerned because the other one is also my brother or my sister.
Something that we take pleasure from. I'm not talking about killing or doing anything like that, but
enjoyment.
Yes. Yeah. Why would it affect our spirituality?
Yes. It will affect our spirituality only if the pleasure is not recommended by God. There are lots of, it's like we don't say don't eat. On the contrary, we serve feast, wonderful feast, very tasty. So eating is natural, sleeping is natural, mating, that's also natural, and defending, that is also natural. And as we live in this world, all of it, like I enjoy good health, I'm happy to be alive, I get up in the morning, I chant, I eat very well, I have very nice friends, I have nice philosophy, I have a very nice life from the material point of view. But I'm using this life to try to spiritualize myself as much as possible. So nothing is forbidden, but certain pleasures are forbidden. Why? Because they create suffering down the road for ourselves and for others, like killing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I want to kill the poor bug because he's biting me, but I can just move him away, let him live, and I will be relieved and he will have his life.
But what about self-defense?
Self-defense must be, yes, because we must protect ourselves. That's natural, yes. And even sometimes, like in the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield. Because sometimes demoniac forces must be repulsed. So there are just wars. But most of the wars today are political wars. And that's forbidden. Yeah.
You have a vision, well, the Christian vision is Satan, right?
Yes.
But do you have a certain person that you would identify to?
No, we don't. That's also a good question. You have an intelligent daughter. The thing is, the personification of Satan is mythology.
Absolutely.
Yes. What is the problem inside of us is the real Satan is our lust. I'm wanting something. Let's say I want somebody else's wife. This is my fault. Don't blame it on Satan. It's your fault. We are the Satans, each one of us, because every day we make choices, and some choices are good, some choices are bad. We have real spirituality means is to learn what is right and what is wrong, not just for ourselves but for others, and to please God. And a person's intelligent, he understands that, and his life can be transformed. Even in this, Hare Krishna, even in this life, we can transform our consciousness.
Absolutely.
Yes.
At the same time, we're children of God. And I think in every single religion is like that. But what I kind of find, you understand, because every single person has different spiritual values, and I think that most people that really do get involved in the spiritual world are the ones that are the least attached to the material.
That's right.
Because the more you attach to the material world, the less you understand the spiritual world.
Exactly.
And that is why I kind of have a difficulty with understanding how much every day we try to please God. But, you know, putting limits to ourselves, limitations, and I don't understand why. You understand, why don't we do things to please ourselves? I mean, you can do it differently, like you said. But does that require a different level of consciousness?
Yeah, well, there's 2 or 3 questions in one. First of all, each one of us has a certain karma by our previous births. So some people are more inclined to spirituality, whereas others are less inclined. But that's not a fault on anybody's part. It's just some have already made the effort in the previous life, and now they're benefiting from their efforts before, and another hasn't made that effort, so he has to do it in this life. And everyone is going the same way, but some people are more advanced and less advanced. The thing is this, that God, when He forbids certain pleasures, it is not so that we become unhappy, but it's to show us the path to true happiness, when we can be free from false pleasures. False pleasures are those who don't last and create suffering later on. Like let's take a crude example. Somebody sees a beautiful woman and says, okay, I'm going to rape her. Now he's enjoying his rape, but he's created suffering for the other, and he's created suffering for himself, untold suffering for many lifetimes, because he's abusing. So it may be a pleasure temporarily, but it's actually a big punishment. So the instructions of God are made to help us go in the right direction. And at some point, some of us, in the Bhagavad Gita, says out of millions and millions of people, one finally understands that yes, my goal is to go back to God, and I will dedicate my life to that. Whereas others, they'll make some effort, but not quite make it, so they will come back next life. But whatever advancement they have made, they will not lose. They will go from there and do better.
This question is about the idea of reincarnation.
Yes.
Interesting enough that Jesus mentioned in the Gospels about the second birth, but it was different interpretation, of course, by his disciples, and maybe the church, not even his disciples.
Yes.
Now, I find it just a fascinating idea as it is, the reincarnation. It's almost scientific because it explains a lot of things.
That's right.
Like a really logical idea.
That's right.
But I have one problem with that, if you can explain it.
Yeah.
I do accept reincarnation, and it explains my the way I am today, why I'm inclined to do these things or other things. But it doesn't make sense to me personally why I do not know about my past life. If I knew about my past life, for example, it would be revealed for me, I would be wiser. Let's say in the past life I was very successful person and basically a very good person, but I committed something terrible and I came back as in a more inferior, maybe still in a human life, but...
Well, let me explain it to you, because you almost understand it, but you're just missing a little piece of the puzzle. It's very simple. The punishment of having to take birth again, part of the punishment is that our memories are erased. That's the punishment. That's why it's so important to try to make it when we have a human body and we have intelligence to understand. We should try our best to not have to take birth again, because the erasing of memory, like there are some stories about, I attended in London, England, a session from an hypnotist. He was writing a book on trying to bring people to their previous lives under hypnotism. And I was amazed because people remembered parts of previous lives. And I believe that's possible. But that's not important, because what's important is what we do now. You know, okay, I'm here now, so do I understand that I have to go beyond birth and death? And I have to accept that if I do take birth again, I'm going to be punished by having forgotten my experience. Just like they say sometimes, an old man said, oh, if I could only be young again with the knowledge I have now. We wish, but that's part of the jail term, because we are in jail here, so we're punished that we forget our past life. But not entirely, because like somebody who has musical ability, all of a sudden he's interested in music. He doesn't remember that he practiced before, but somehow, like in Mozart, he was 5 years old and he was writing symphonies. I mean, how do you explain that? Well, he did in his previous life, but then somebody said, what happened next life? Well, he had a terrible life in this life, so next life would be a terrible birth because he abused.
He has no ear for music probably next life.
That's probably his punishment, yes. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah, it's part of the punishment, because otherwise it would be a free card, you know, a free card, because if I could remember what I did bad, then I could really do better. It would not be equal. We're all equal. When we start as babies, we start equal. You know, babies.
In a way, it's a mystery. Is it revealed to some people of the past incarnation?
Well, I have read some people who remember past births. Yes, some people have that ability, but I always feel that it's unnecessary, because it's a waste of time. Whatever has happened in the past is finished. We only live in the present. There's no future, and the past is no longer there. So why not live right now and decide, okay, what am I going to do now to create a good future for myself, not what did I do in the past. because that's not going to come back. Finish.
That's true. I remember one dream that actually reinforced my belief in reincarnation.
Oh, you did, huh?
I was dreaming of being a Chinese
Is that right?
yes, and I actually spoke Chinese, which it reminds me a little bit of this funny movie Bedazzled, when he speaks different in Spanish and he realizes that he speaks in Spanish. It was the same thing. I was speaking in Chinese. I probably couldn't remember this dream, but I woke up suddenly and it was vivid to me and said what I was doing. I was speaking Chinese. There was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and you understood what you were saying.
Yeah, exactly, yes. I had two other brothers, and there was a whole story going on, which I saw in a dream. It was very interesting.
Yeah, well, that might be a help. Like sometimes God helps us in dreams like that, because He knows maybe that you want to understand things, so He sends you some reminder like that. Now, I think the only thing that's left to be said is that wherever you are now, try to make the next step. Like this chanting is very easily done. Stopping the four, they call it 4 pillars of sin. They're the ones that destroy the society: the meat eating, intoxicants, illicit sex, and gambling. At least stop that, purify the existence, and later on try to read this book. I'll put it on the film so people can see it. The Bhagavad Gita.
It's a fascinating book, yes.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. It explains all this science very clearly, and from there, naturally, your progress will be very...
Where can I buy this book?
You can buy it right here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I will.
Okay. It's not expensive. We're not trying to make money. Like this whole festival is done free of charge. We don't charge for the food. It's just the book, the cost of the printing. Like this book is worth $4. I mean, we print it for $3, and then we got to transport it and this and that. So it's not like we're trying to make money, but we want to give the knowledge to people. That's the main thing.
I went to internet and I found out a very disturbing news about the allegation of some Krishnaists that actually poisoned His Divine Grace.
Yes.
It's an allegation. It's not proven, but it's an allegation. But it was
yes. It is an ongoing allegation. It's been going on for many years, and as the question is not difficult, because I think you will understand it easily enough. Is that after His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada left the movement, what happens is that the disciples usually, after a pure devotee leaves, the disciples become confused. They divide and they fight. Yes. No, I don't. I'm sorry, sir. Yes, maybe someone, you may have, do you have a pen for him?
You have a pen?
So these allegations are there, and there are other allegations, and also there are different groups of devotees now. But we should not be confused by this. I think the important thing for us personally is to make sure that we are honest in our search, and that we take our knowledge from the books that are authentic, that are written by Srila Prabhupada, because he was a self-realized soul, and see how this knowledge can help us, and not concentrate so much on the infighting that happens when things become institutionalized. Institutions have a tendency to materialize things. So I personally, for example, do not belong to the institution as such. I am just a devotee. I live alone in the countryside, and I come only to preach, and my preaching is only as good as I have practiced myself. I know that. So, and I don't take sides with anyone, because I know these groups are there. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. I have my own opinion, but I don't want to fight with anyone. The important thing is that we all go back to Godhead as soon as possible. And this fighting business is why this age is called Kali. Kali means the age of quarrel. So
Kali Yuga.
Kali Yuga. We don't need more quarrel. We need some agreement that what is important is that we become purified, honest, sincere, and make advancement in spiritual life. The rest is the material world. It will go on anyway. We can't stop it. Why get involved in it?
Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita.
Very nice.
It was very fascinating. It was deep philosophy, an interesting story told. So I really started getting more interest in Indian philosophy.
Yes.